The smell of antiseptic clung to the inside of my mask as I stood over an open chest cavity, heart beating steadily beneath my gloved hands. But it wasn't the patient's heart I was focused on, it was mine. Or rather, what was left of it. Clamp, I said, and the nurse handed it over without hesitation. This was my world. My theater. My kingdom of calm amidst chaos. But today even my fingers felt heavier than usual. The transplant was successful. A flawless procedure, one I'd performed dozens of times before. But as I tied the final suture, my mind wasn't on the artery beneath it. It was on the woman who used to sleep beside me at night. Not long ago, I believed we were invincible. Not long ago, I believed I knew her. Not long ago, I thought love was enough. I was wrong. My name is Dr. Adrian West. I'm 52 years old, chief of cardiothoracic surgery at the prestigious Raleigh Heights Medical Center. For most of my career, people saw me as unshakable. Focused. Brilliant, even. But they didn't know what it took to keep my hands steady while my world was bleeding out at home. It started, as betrayal often does, with a whisper behind a closed door. The first time I heard her laugh like that, I was on my way to surprise her. It was a Friday afternoon, rare for me to leave the hospital before sunset, but I just completed my third transplant that month and thought maybe, just maybe, I could salvage what was left of our marriage with something simple. Dinner. A walk. A moment. She'd been distant lately, blaming the boutiques she managed, claiming stress, expansion plans, supplier issues, the usual. But that laugh, it wasn't meant for me. I stepped into our grand, echoing kitchen, the silence of the house broken only by the faint murmur of her voice coming from her office down the hall. Yes, of course I miss you, she said. He's clueless. As always. He. Not me. I stood still, keys in hand, the surgical precision I was known for now trained on the small sliver of open air between the kitchen and her office door. I know he'd never suspect. He's too consumed with his little god complex at the hospital. Honestly, sometimes I wonder if he even notices I'm still here. A pause. Then a laugh, low, intimate, and unfamiliar. Something cold bloomed in my chest. I made noise then. Deliberate. The clink of keys on the counter. The creak of a cabinet door. Her voice stopped immediately. Seconds later, she emerged, calm as moonlight. Adrian, she said, perfectly made up, her hair brushed smooth and eyes glittering just a little too much. You're home early. I watched her closely. Her smile was too wide. Too controlled. Successful transplant, I said. Thought I'd surprise you. She kissed my cheek, perfume sweet and sharp. I need to run to the boutique, she said, already grabbing her purse, the small black clutch she always said was only for special meetings. She was gone before I could respond. But something inside me had shifted. A scalpel of truth had pierced the surface, and though I didn't yet know the depth of the wound, I knew this. The woman I had built my life with was hiding something. And if there was one thing I learned from a career in saving lives, where there's silence, there's often something bleeding beneath it. The next morning, the sun poured into the kitchen through tall windows, bathing the marble in gold. My daughter, Elise, was already at the table, pouring cereal into a bowl. At 17, she was the mirror of her mother, same high cheekbones, same effortless beauty, but with something far more precious: honesty, empathy, depth. Dad, did you know Mom's friend Mr. Serrano is building a resort? She asked, casual, like she was asking about the weather. I froze. What friend? Elena showed me some blueprints when he visited. Said Mom was helping with the branding. You didn't know? No, I didn't. And that name, Serrano, twisted something in the back of my memory. He was more than a developer. He was a seducer of investments, a charmer in tailored suits, always 1 degree too familiar in every photo I'd seen from her boutique openings. I sipped my coffee, masking the ice forming beneath my skin. Tell me about your sailing team practice, sweetheart. But I wasn't listening. Not really. I was already unraveling a knot that had been forming for months, maybe years. The tipping point came that Sunday. Brunch used to be sacred. Our tradition. Just the 4 of us, Elise, my younger daughter Zoe, Elena and me. Waffles, jazz playing low, the smell of citrus from the mimosas. That day, Elena was there in body, but her soul belonged to someone else. She kept stepping away, phone pressed tight to her ear, her smile tightening every time she returned. I caught the tremor in her hand, the way her pupils contracted just before she picked up her glass. She was hiding something. Again. Finally, she stood and said, Adrian, I need a word. In your study. The girls looked up, nervous. I nodded, stood slowly, and followed her across the echoing hallway. My study, mahogany walls, shelves of medical journals, a fire I hadn't lit in weeks, was my sanctuary. She closed the door behind us like she was sealing off a secret. I'm leaving for the Bahamas tomorrow, she said. I'll be gone a month. I blinked. Excuse me. Elias lost his wife recently. He's grieving. He needs support. I'm going to stay with him. And before you object, this is business, Adrian. He's investing in my boutique expansion. It's strategic. She said it like a script. Like something rehearsed. I stayed silent. I've learned that silence unnerves liars more than any accusation. Elise and Zoe don't need to know, she added, her voice tightening. They need stability. College interviews are coming up. Remember who got those doors opened for them. My family's connections run deep. Don't jeopardize their future over a misunderstanding. A threat wrapped in pearls. Tomorrow morning, she said, like it was already decided. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Then she turned and left me in the quiet. That night, I didn't sleep. Instead, I began the first incision, not on a body, but on the truth. I opened her shared financial files. Looked deeper than I ever had. The data was damning. Systematic transfers. Offshore accounts. Boutique profits that vanished into thin air. She had been building her escape route brick by brick for over a year. I stared at the screen, barely breathing. I wasn't angry. Not yet. Just methodical. Because betrayal doesn't always hit you like a scream. Sometimes it slides into your chest like a scalpel, quiet, clean, but lethal. And when it does, you don't panic. You operate. More followed. Like rot spreading beneath wallpaper. A call from Zoe's teacher. She's been distracted lately. Worrying about her mother. A text from Elise. Dad, can we talk? It's about Mom. I brought her into the study and she stood in the same place her mother had hours before. But Elise trembled, not with guilt, but fear. I wasn't supposed to say anything, she whispered. But last month, I came home early and saw Mom kissing Mr. Serrano in her office. She told me if I ever told anyone, I'd never get into Yale. I felt the breath leave my body. She was using our daughter as a shield. A hostage. I held Elise, her shoulders shaking against mine. You did the right thing. I'll handle it now. She looked up at me, eyes wide. What are you going to do? I smiled. What I do best. I became two people after that. By day, I was still Dr. Adrian West, calm, poised, savior of lives. By night, I was something else entirely. I watched security footage. Downloaded months of files. Tracked every time Elena's clutch bag left the closet. Every day she said she was at the boutique but wasn't. Every private dinner. Every lie. I called Irene Hartwell, a friend from college who traded medical school for forensic accounting. She arrived the next morning, sharp as ever, and within hours confirmed my suspicion. She's been siphoning off profits for 18 months, she said, scrolling through evidence. And not just from your joint accounts. She's been committing tax fraud. Hiding money from the IRS. She looked up at me. You want to burn her to the ground? No, I said. I want the truth to do it for me. Her flight took off Monday morning. She kissed the girls goodbye like nothing was wrong. Left a note on my desk, don't worry. You'll see this is for the best. She had no idea what was waiting for her. While she lounged by the sea, sipping cocktails with a man who once smiled in our Christmas card photo, I assembled my case. Ruthlessly. Quietly. Completely. Evidence. Lawyers. Audits. IRS flags. I was done being the good man who waited for the storm to pass. I was going to become the storm. She thought I would wait. She thought I would fade quietly into the background like wallpaper peeling in an old house. But I wasn't fading. I was watching. Listening. Preparing. Elena once accused me of being cold, detached, a surgeon who could never fully feel anything. What she didn't understand is that detachment is not absence of feeling. It is control. And now I would use that control to dismantle every illusion she'd built. The first chess piece I moved was Hope Ellery. 60 years old. Divorce attorney. Unflinching. A legend in legal circles with a grin that meant war and eyes that missed nothing. When I sat across from her and laid out the documents Irene had uncovered, she nodded once. This, she said, flipping through offshore accounts, tax fraud records, and photos from Elena's grief retreat, isn't just grounds for divorce. It's a blueprint for destruction. I don't want spectacle, I told her. I want precision. Quiet. Complete. I have daughters to protect. Then let's operate, she said, drive west. I didn't tell the girls everything. Not yet. But I didn't need to. They saw what mattered. They saw their mother post champagne-fueled selfies with Serrano on what she claimed was a business trip. They saw her laugh at dinners while Zoe studied for midterms alone. They saw the truth, and that was enough. Elise sent me a photo one night. Her mother and Serrano at a boutique event last year. Clothes. Familiar. Too familiar. Should I send it to the lawyer? I stared at the image, then replied, yes. And thank you. My daughters weren't just survivors of betrayal. They were becoming architects of truth. By the second week, the audit had begun. Elena's boutiques, previously praised for their unusual growth, were quietly flagged by the state tax board. Her brother, Julian, the financial wizard who helped her hide the money, cracked almost instantly. I told her it was too risky, he said, hunched in Hope's office, sweat on his temple. But she wouldn't stop. Said she needed leverage in case Adrian ever found out. Said Lawrence promised her a new life. Then he can share it with her in court, Hope replied dryly and slid a witness cooperation agreement across the table. Meanwhile, Irene followed the money trail further. She wasn't just hiding cash, she told me one evening, tapping her tablet. She was leveraging your name. Your reputation got her access to real estate contacts. Investment circles. Serrano's pitch decks all include you, your name, your image. You were the silent guarantee. The respected husband. She paused. They were building a new empire, Adrian. On your back. I didn't flinch. I didn't speak. I just nodded. The mask was still on. The hands still steady. But inside? The incision was deepening. And the bleeding had to stop. The final week of her trip, I got a message from Michael Kane, Serrano's former business partner. I heard you're preparing a case, he said, sipping espresso in my study, surrounded by mahogany and quiet. You should know something. This isn't the first time Elias Serrano has done this. He targets power couples, uses the spouse to gain influence, investment access, then disappears once it crashes. He slid a file toward me. Your wife wasn't a victim. She was a co-conspirator. I opened the folder. Contracts. Emails. Recordings. It wasn't just betrayal. It was premeditated character assassination. I looked up. She used me, I said. Michael nodded. Like the others. But I'm not like the others, I said quietly. I don't walk away. I finish what I start. The morning of her return, I stood in my study once more. The light was dim. The house was silent. The divorce papers were stacked neatly on her desk. Next to them, audit notices, financial records, evidence, screenshots of her private posts, a picture of her new necklace bought with money she claimed was for store renovations. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even hurt. I was ready. She walked in just after noon. Her heels clicked against the marble. Designer luggage trailing behind her like ghosts of a life she thought she still owned. Elise? Zoe, she called, smiling. No one answered. She stepped into the study and saw the papers. I watched from the doorway. What is this? She whispered, picking up the divorce petition. Her fingers trembled. She reached for her phone, frantic. I stepped forward. It's over, Elena. Her head jerked up. This is ridiculous. You're blowing this out of proportion. I can explain. The time for explanations passed, I said. You used our money. Our daughters. My name. Her voice turned cold. You really want to destroy their futures over a few missteps? My family's influence is the only reason they had a shot at the Ivy League. Elise got into Stanford on her own merit, I said. Zoe's headed to Columbia. They don't need your influence. They never did. She stared at me. You don't get to do this. You don't get to take everything from me. I met her gaze. I'm not taking anything, I said. You gave it away. They say divorce is war. But for me, it was surgery. No screaming. No chaos. Just a clean incision. Removal of the tumor. Sutures that held. While Elena scrambled to save what was left of the world she built on lies, I watched it unravel one thread at a time. She tried everything. Threats. Pleas. Bargaining. Even seduction. But I'd already grieved the woman I thought I loved. This one? She was a stranger in expensive shoes. The hospital board called me in after she attempted her last, desperate move. She's accusing you of misconduct, said Dr. Levins, the chairman, as he scanned the envelope Elena's lawyer had sent. Claims of coercion. Emotional instability. Abuse. I slid a folder across his desk. Every financial statement. Every photograph. Every audio snippet Hope had collected. A full log of my surgeries, my patient reviews, my hospital contributions. Impeccable. This is everything, I said calmly. And this is what she's trying to bury. He closed the folder slowly, exhaling. You've saved more lives here than anyone else in our department, Adrian. We stand with you. That was the end of her last play. The audit finalized the week after. Her boutiques were stripped bare, financial inconsistencies exposed like raw nerve endings. She'd lied to investors. Fabricated expenses. Hidden income. Her brother Julian, now a cooperating witness, handed over the rest. Emails. Encrypted ledgers. Years of deception coded in spreadsheets and glamour. Elias Serrano, true to form, vanished the moment the investigations began. I received a message from his attorney. Mr. Serrano wishes to clarify that he was unaware of Mrs. West's financial misconduct. He will cooperate in exchange for leniency. Cowardice cloaked as diplomacy. I said nothing. Just forwarded the message to the authorities. Let him explain his innocence under oath. Elise and Zoe chose to stay with me. They saw their mother's charm finally for what it was, a mask. She used to tell me, Elise said one night over dinner, that if I ever sided with you, she'd cut me off. Said the world would never take me seriously without her name behind me. She told me I should stay in tennis instead of joining the debate team, Zoe added. Said the scholarship money mattered less than keeping up appearances. I looked at them, brilliant, stubborn, kind, and felt something rise in my chest. Not anger. Not bitterness. Pride. You're free now, I said quietly. Free to choose who you want to be. Not who someone else says you should be. Hope handled the divorce like a grandmaster playing her final move. The prenup written by my father's ironclad hand decades ago left Elena with only what she had earned legitimately. And after taxes, audits, and debt recovery? That amounted to nothing. She moved in with her sister, tried to open a boutique in a small town 3 states away. Last I heard, she embezzled from her own sibling's account and was promptly evicted. She called once. Left a voicemail. I see now what I lost. Maybe there's still time. I didn't respond. Some wounds shouldn't be reopened. 5 years passed. I rebuilt everything. Elise graduated from Stanford Medical School. Zoe made partner at her law firm before she was 30. They still called every Sunday. Sometimes for advice. Sometimes just to say, I love you, Dad. I stepped down from the hospital 2 years later. I had nothing left to prove. The day I retired, the board presented a plaque. In honor of Dr. Adrian West, who saved more than hearts. They didn't know the half of it. 20 years later, I sat in the same study where it all began, only it wasn't quite the same. The walls were repainted, the books replaced. The antique mahogany desk was gone, donated to a local women's shelter along with most of Elena's old life. In its place stood something simpler. Modern. Mine. A photo sat by the window. Me, Elise, and Zoe, taken last year at Elise's hospital ceremony where they named the pediatric ICU after her. Zoe stood beside us, her wife's arm wrapped proudly around her waist, both glowing from their most recent courtroom win, prosecuting a white-collar fraud ring not unlike the one that once tried to destroy our family. Legacy. That's the word that stayed with me. Not revenge. Not victory. Legacy. Elena died alone in a Las Vegas hospital. Her sister sent the letter. No service. No estate. No will. She never accepted blame. Never saw the wreckage in her wake. Only the pieces she thought others owed her. They say the world breaks us before it builds us. But sometimes people break themselves and call it fate. I didn't speak her name much anymore. Not because I hated her, because she didn't matter anymore. What mattered were the 2 women she once tried to control and the lives they built in spite of her. What mattered was truth. And what we chose to build on it. The front door camera that caught her deception all those years ago now sat in a glass case at the Museum of Technology, part of an exhibit on digital integrity and domestic resilience. Funny how the smallest lens can capture the largest betrayals. Funny how that one silent witness helped set us free. At 87, I died with my daughters at my side. Not in a hospital bed. At home. Peacefully. I left behind no unfinished business. No lingering bitterness. Just journals. Case notes. A letter. To Elise and Zoe. I didn't choose revenge. I chose truth. And in the end, it saved all 3 of us. You were never her pawns. You were always the queen's. They buried me beside my parents in a small, quiet cemetery on a hill that overlooks the city. Elise brought my stethoscope. Zoe read a line from my memoir. Some say revenge is best served cold. But I disagree. Justice, when prepared with precision, served with silence, and rooted in truth. That's the only dish that leaves no bitterness behind. The world remembers Elena's fall. But it remembers our rise more. Because betrayal can build a fire. But truth? Truth builds a legacy.